Hello, everybody. It's Sunday night, and that means it's time for another episode of Explain Yourself. Joey, I thought I was going to do a couple of those for you. I stepped on your toes. My bad, man.
No worries.
Other than that, how's it going?
No worries at all. We're having a whole lot of fun over here playing around. We're just messing with you guys tonight. We're gonna play a couple of the intros a couple different times. We're gonna blink in and out. No, we're just gonna mess with you guys, right? Because it's not a show unless there's some technical difficulties happening, right? No, I'm doing excellent, man. It's been a fun week. A lot of really cool stuff has been going on. Lots of really cool Kickstarters kicking off. There's lots of really fun things that are happening in February. Lots of pre-launch campaigns. We got a couple of friends here. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the Kickstarters that they got going on. We're going to talk to you guys about Ben's Kickstarter that's going to be in pre-launch. That is in pre-launch. That's going to be live soon. And then we'll talk to you guys a little bit about the campaign that we have live now. But before we get to that stuff, we're going to talk to our guests. Ben, please introduce our guests and let's bring them in.
All right, we have John and Chris from Bentbox Comics who are here to talk to us about two really cool books, Refuge and Worlds Forgotten. Guys, thanks for coming on the show, and it's great to have you here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So, Chris, we'll start with you. Give us the kind of 30-second elevator pitch about Refuge.
Yeah, so Refuge is an all-ages action adventure about a young boy soldier who escapes the cruelties of a local war that is ravaging his homeland and finds refuge in a dark cave where he thinks that he's finally safe until he runs into an ominous and terrifying presence. That was just
a 30-second elevator pitch.
That was
Nice.
not necessarily, but it worked.
Oh, sorry. I know I cut you off. My bad.
No, you're good. That was it.
I'm like, usually I'm confused because most people go on for 2 minutes and then somebody has a tight 30-second pitch and I'm like, oh wait, crap.
I understand a tight pitch. I totally get that. So yeah, no, I was able to get that set up for you.
Okay, my bad. And John, tell us about Worlds Forgotten.
Yeah, so Worlds Forgotten tells the story of Keon, a mysterious boy with the rare and magical ability to open portals to uncharted worlds. A little bit less than your 30 seconds, but we are launching issue 2 of the series. We've already done issue 1 and issue 2. It's after the death of Keon's sister. He begins to experience strange nightmares, awakening from a particularly haunting and vivid dream. Something within him awakens, launching him into worlds of utter chaos, literally. So that's that.
Very cool. Both these books look really cool. We're going to jump back over to Refuge first. And Chris, so this is really, it's like a really cool looking book. You got kind of cartoony art, obviously mixed with what sounds like some very heavy subject matter.
Yeah.
So what kind of inspired you to kind of plan this book out the way it is? You clearly put some thought into, just not doing necessarily the first standard type art style you'd think of would be for something like this, kind of realistic and gritty. You went a different way with it. Kind of tell us a little bit about what went into the planning for that.
Yeah. So, I mean, the book itself was kind of collecting digital dust on a Google Doc. You know what I mean? Like I had a handful of stories that I was interested in, and something John and I both have found ourselves attracted to stories that aren't necessarily typical, or they tend to deal with more mature or heavy themes. So this was one that, as I started to kind of flesh out the idea, I really thought that I had something cool on my hands, and I got pretty passionate about it. Started writing it. Was very excited about how the story was kind of turning out, which then obviously led to finding the art style that we wanted. I didn't really necessarily have one in mind per se. Sometimes you kind of just know it when you see it, and that's kind of what it turned into. Was if anyone's familiar with some of our work, like I did a book series called Artificial. We only have 2 issues out of that so far, but that's using a Brazilian artist named Gabriel Fonseca. If anyone's familiar with Brazilian artists, they're extremely talented. They have fairly unique styles. Like it's not your everyday art style that you see. They all seem to have their own way of doing art, which is just really cool to kind of like explore all of them. You can kind of choose an insane amount of different art styles. But this one, I just came upon a guy named Lucas Jensen, who's Brazilian, and I saw some of his concept art for like young Spider-Man, and I think there was one of like a boy and a monster, and I think that's what really made me go, okay, I think this might be it. So I reached out to him, asked him if he'd be interested in the project. He was extremely, he was like, yeah, this sounds awesome. And then he immediately started giving me character sketches, um, concept art for the environment, everything. So you could tell, immediately he was very invested in the project, which was awesome. But as he was really fleshing out these characters, this was the style he brought me. So there wasn't really much of a, working through the style. He presented me with this, and to me, it fit perfectly with what I was planning.
Yeah, it's definitely, while it's, like I said, it's, you'd think of something like this if you just told me the story. I'd think in my head the art style would be something be really different.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a really cool, it looks great, obviously. Kind of gives me like a Pixar vibe a little bit.
Yeah.
Although, obviously it's not 3D, but it kind of plays, it seems to have the same expressions. And even the quote unquote editing of these panels feels really cinematic. It reminds me of some short films I've seen. And I think even just this teaser sequence you have up is really a great. I mean, this could be a trailer. It's just like a lot of story there. You end up with this scary moment in the cave, and then there's this fearsome monster, but he doesn't look necessarily like he's going to be too fearsome. I'm not sure
He's not that
how
bad.
loud that roar is, or if it's cute.
Yeah. So that's up to your imagination. And then
Okay.
also, I mean, one of the other reasons why I wanted this art style is within the title of the Kickstarter. I want it to be an all ages book. So like John and I, we co-own this company, Bentbox Comics, an independent small press publisher, and so we kind of convene a lot over different stories that we're working with, different people we're trying to bring on, including our own books. So this was one that I definitely wanted his eyes on, just to get an opinion, see what he thought, and
It's my favorite.
I don't know what it says about all the other stuff I've worked on, but he immediately goes, "This one's really good." Oh, thanks. But it did get me excited. I was like, okay, cool. And because I'm wanting it to be in all ages, I want it to be something that my kids can read, but then also John's really interested in, and he's captivated by it, and we're able to tell that story in a way to where, similar, like you said, like a Pixar movie, or like say Wild Robot, which I'm not going to compare myself to that. Not yet, at least, but that's something that we can all kind of really get into, no matter what your age is. And so I wanted an art style that could fit that, something that would pull in a younger audience, while also dealing with mature themes and handling them delicately and digestible for like both ages.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good balance just to have, if you're going to get a story that isn't necessarily dark or gritty or anything like that, but it is dealing with serious things, you do kind of want to even it out a little bit. And I think that art style gives you a lot of expression. And I think it does kind of make it feel a little safer. I
Yeah.
don't think, I mean, obviously you can draw whatever you want, but I look at this and I'm like, I don't think some really, really horrible things going to happen when I turn the page. And I think that lets you explore some darker things or some more serious adult themes in a way that works for children. I think something when you hear people do things that are, children are at least an audience they're planning for, not necessarily aiming at, but
Yeah.
trying to include. I think the temptation can just be nothing too serious, nothing too scary.
Oh yeah.
And if you look at everything for children that's been made, that's like a real classic. There's some very dark stuff in there. It doesn't mean it's gory or too adult, but it does deal with serious themes. And I think over and over, that's what kids gravitate to, is something that you're trying to grow up. You want to learn these things, and I think as a kid, I always gravitated to things like that. That wasn't necessarily for adults. I wasn't like sneaking R-rated movies because I was a really good kid, but I would tend to want to see things that gave a little bit more of that to me. I was looking for that.
Yeah, a little
So
bit of depth is important, especially for kids. And then, I mean, it's something that John's working on a series right now called Wingless, and one of the pitches with that is kind of like going back to an old school Disney, like a Don Bluth,
Mhm.
way of
mhm,
creating books for kids. And those, they didn't shy away from death or like the macabre or anything. Like they dealt with some serious stuff. And I mean, even my kids and I watched Anastasia this morning.
mhm.
And even that, I mean, it's a fantastic movie, but you got like this purgatory and this decomposing corpse, and his arms are falling off, and it's creepy and macabre, and it's cool, and my kids loved it. And it's stuff that the whole family dies, and
Yeah,
these
yeah.
were dark. They dealt with dark, subject matter. And if you can really balance, I mean, it's a balancing act, kind of like what you said. And if you can do it, then hats off to you. But this is my attempt, because it'll have some mature themes and some depth to the story for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I think all the classic stuff does. If you look back at, I mean, God, even Never Ending Story, when that,
Yeah,
whatever happens to his horse, I mean,
yeah,
that was a hell of a thing to see as a kid. And,
Mhm.
but it's what makes you remember it. It's what makes you remember Transformers, the movie. It's like,
oh yeah,
oh yeah, I was 7 and I saw Optimus Prime get beaten to death. That was unexpected, but it sticks with you.
oh yeah,
So the art's beautiful. I can't say enough about that. I mean, the color, and that's something I think that in indie books often gets a little overlooked. Maybe you have a decent line artist, but the color isn't. You just don't have somebody that's quite on that level. But I mean, this is just beautiful, top notch stuff.
I appreciate it.
And
Yeah, I
the
mean,
storytelling is fantastic too.
it's also it's all Lucas Jensen. So my artist,
Mhm.
sometimes you get sometimes a sketcher, and then a line artist, and then a colorist, and you kind of build that team up. But this was one where Lucas just he really did put together an amazing set of sketches and concept art, to where I'm like, he dived into the color palette of the characters, of what I mean. He really got into it, to the
Mhm.
point where I'm like, oh, so you're just going to do the whole thing, right? And he's like, yeah, definitely. He was really into it. So he does the line art, the colors, everything.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what your back and forth was, specifically on like
Yeah.
how you're pacing this, because it is really cinematic. I mean, I can almost watch this in my head, especially these panels here. Do you kind of go back and forth with him on sketches and say, I want this panel to be this big, and or like it's kind of how you're timing it out as you give prominence to this one or that one, or do you just give him a script? Panel 1, this guy walks. Panel 2, he falls. Panel 3, he's in the snow. Panel 4, he opens it. Like, kind
Yeah.
of how do you get work with him on that?
So I've mentioned this in other live streams before, but I had a long history of comic books, and being a huge reader and collector back when I was a very young kid. I kind of got out of that for a while, and I really didn't have much to pull from once I got back into comics. What got me back into comics was a lot of indie stuff. That's what really got me back into it. Specifically, John creating his own book really kind of sparked something in me to do the same. But when I went to create my own, the point of reference I really had was, I did have some experience writing screenplays. I went to school for like game design and development, and I had a lot of experience with like interactive storytelling and media. And
Hmm.
I thought it started to piece together in a way to where I wrote my comic book script like a screenplay. So the reason why it looks cinematic is because I'm kind of I'm only familiar with writing cinematics, if that makes sense. So like
Hmm.
as I'm writing it, my script tends to be, I'm sure not everyone else will have this, but like my descriptors will be camera angle, top down, looking at character from this direct. You know what I mean? So like the panel is described as a camera shot in
Hmm.
all of my scripts, but that's just because that's my background in writing. But I'm not saying it's the best way or the worst way or the right way, but I will say I do think so far it's helped me create pages that are cinematic, that they allow your eye to kind of follow in a way that reads really well. And like you said, as you're watching it, it almost feels like you're being carried through like like a trailer. which is kind of what I was hoping for with this. And then I'll tag on to that real fast is that this is going to be a completely no speech bubbles. There's no talking in this book at all. It's going to be
Oh,
completely driven by the art, and that's kind of going to be it's going to be made sense, or it's going to make sense as you go. But it's basically just two worlds colliding. There's no reason for them to know how to speak to each other. They do not know how to speak to each other. It's also going to be a slightly foreign world to the reader as well, to where I just wanted to see if I could challenge myself to write a book that was just the art. So when you put yourself into that kind of box, you really have to focus on the pacing, because it has to be. I'm sure it's not perfect, but it has to be darn close, because otherwise, you can't really. There's no exposition. There's no like dialogue between the characters. Everything has to be told through action, and so the pages have to show that.
yeah. I mean, things that are kind of constructed that way that are almost like a writing exercise in some ways, that
Hmm.
where you're like they can't talk, so you can't say back when I did this and that's how I
Yeah,
got this scar,
yeah,
sort of thing. And that's I think that stuff just gets to basics in such a good way that you almost always see really strong results.
I
So
hope so.
very cool stuff.
Thank
Yeah, no, it really does. I mean, I just these 4 or 5 pages really sing. Definitely make me interested in the rest of it. But we'll get back to that. But I want to jump over to Worlds Forgotten. John, you told us kind of the quick pitch on what's going on with this character in the world, but kind of tell us a little bit more about this. Issue one, you kind of recapped a little bit. What really cool stuff can we expect in issue two?
Yeah. Well, yeah. First off, issue one right there on the front page. There's a QR code. You can literally read issue one for free on Global Comics. It's our most read book currently on Global Comics from Bentbox Publishing. So really happy about that. I think we're almost up to 6,000 reads on that. So you can kind of get a recap more or less. Something pretty tragic happens, and you start to kind of see the main character's world spiral out of control, and then you get introduced to a world of Krios, which is a elven world, and you can see very quickly that things are not in a good place there. Just kind of giving you a glimpse into the future and a character named Abaddon who is going to be coming after Keon for unknown reasons, more or less. So in issue two, it starts off right where we leave off in issue one, where he is kind of he's waking up from this horrible dream, and he's going to go to school, and and some really crazy things start to happen very quickly, because in that dream that he had, he ended up actually teleporting to a world, which is kind of a spoiler, but in his dream he didn't know that, and it starts to awaken these abilities in him that he didn't know he had, which of course brings a lot more mystery to his background, where he came from, who he is as a character. There are some things that point to a past. So if you go down one more page on the screen here, you can kind of see that his mom is holding a few things that she's kept hidden from him, like a wand. There's a little bit of a newspaper article that's written in the background about how he was found in the woods and adopted by this family, and she's holding a very, very, very special amulet in her hands, which is actually not an amulet; it's a seed. In this book, you just, like I said, man, in issue two, you really just start to see things get really crazy really quick. If you continue to scroll down, he starts to have hallucinations. This being that is introduced at the end of issue one has now found him, which we do show that off in the beginning of issue one, and is starting to track his location. And again, it starts to spiral really quick. Um, so excited for it, man. We got a lot of stuff coming. I would say issue one starts off pretty mellow for the most part. I mean, of course, by page four, you're getting like thrown into chaos. Then it mellows out again, and then by the end of the book, you're in like six different worlds within about 10 pages, and you get a feel for what this whole series is going to be about. So yeah, it's it's my first book that I created was Worlds Forgotten issue 1. This is a very special story to me because it was my first published book. I've published 4 other books since this, and I'm coming back to this to kind of like rejuvenate it. It's funny because this book is really happening because of Chris. Came to my house and I had launched issue 1 at a pretty hard time in my life, and my daughter had passed away, and I fell off completely, hit a really bad place mentally, and I actually wrote Blossom, which is another book that I published that was like me working through that grief, and that's free to read on Global Comics as well. Just a book that I wanted to try to help people realize that even in like the worst time in your life, you can still get out of that, and it's work, man. It's hard, but you can get out of that. So going back to this book, I originally made this whole book, and I was frustrated with a lot of things in issue 1, specifically how it ended. I felt like I was in kind of a bad place, and I ended it in a way like I'm never coming back. And
Mhm.
I was like, you know what, Chris, can you come take a look at these other like 13 pages that I had done for an alternate ending that we never ended up publishing? And he's like, bro, this needs to be the continuation of the story. He's like, so let's take your issue 1, let's break it up into a palatable issue, and then you just make an issue 2, just redo issue 2, right? Or come out with issue 2, which is like what issue 1 should have ended, right? Or how it should have ended. So we did that, man. And I mean, the artist, Ruben Mosho, man, he's a phenomenal artist. He did the colors on these pages as well. I had 2 colors. They're both best friends. Nene Textira was also a colorist on this book, and then we had Dave Lintz as the letterer, who's done quite a few books for some pretty well known publishers. So yeah, this is the fun part of the book, man. You get to see this kid who he's down on his luck, and he's ready to end it all because of what he feels responsible for his sister's death in issue 1, which ultimately he really was responsible. But because of that, he's ready to end it. And before he can do so, he gets thrown into this world of chaos, man. Worlds of chaos, I should say. So yeah,
Wow,
man.
that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Um,
This story is a very big, big, big story. So it's hard not to say too much.
And that was 30
yeah, I mean,
seconds, folks.
Yep, there's your
yeah, that
elevator
was
pitch.
just about.
There's a long elevator
No,
ride.
that's
Enjoy.
well, when you have most people struggle to describe one world in 2 minutes,
Yeah.
so I don't think we can hold it against you describing several dimensions and 6 worlds
There you
in
go.
a little bit over that. I think you're
Appreciate
fine.
it.
I love the art on this page. It's kind of like it's a little more anime in the
Mhm.
best way, a sense of that, in that you've got like a great sense of motion, a lot of character in the expressions and everything, which is like a really big shift in tone from
Mm.
the first few pages we saw where he's in his house. He's obviously really sad dealing with stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of, do you get into like some comedy with this book? Is that does the tone of it shift a lot as he goes from world to world, or is it just more driven by what the character's going through at the time?
Yeah, so this book is it's a pretty big emotional roller coaster. Issue 1 is like extremely serious and like in every sense of the way. Issue 2 starts out that way. But I, changing my mentality, and I was in a really dark place, so things were very dark. I was
Mhm.
like, when I got out of that, I was like, man, I need more. I need this comic to be what comics are supposed to be about, which is having fun, and just that story needs to just kind of take you out of reality, right? Now bring you back into it. So what I did is I shifted directions, and I was like, we're gonna have this chaotic, fun, crazy adventure with this very dark undertone to it as well. Because there is still the elements that we started out with in issue 1. You can't get around that. There's some very dark things that are going on another world named Krios, which is connected to this story. As you've heard probably a million times, a story is only as good as its villain. And believe it or not, this is Keon, our main character, our protagonist, but I have spent a lot more time invested into the villain of this story. So we're gonna see quite a bit of villainy from him in the near future.
Very cool. I'm going to
Fantastic.
jump back to another question I had, but I did want to remind everybody watching, if you're on YouTube, the links to all these books, the Kickstarter links are in the description. So if you scroll down a little bit under the title, you can go right over there and get in the pre-launch list for these and for the other books we'll talk about. And I just throw the Global Comics profile for you guys in the comments on YouTube. You should also see those on Facebook. So if you're watching this now or you're watching it later, in the next week coming up here, you can get right on those links and head over to follow these great books. Um, so something you said about the tone of it and the character once you were kind of saying like, yeah, I need this comic to be like what comics are supposed to be, which is fun and a little bit escapist. I think it really works out well. I think when you needed it to be that, and I think the character needs it to be that too. I think everybody's probably had a time in their life they've um, the darkest times, the times when you're dealing with the most serious stuff, is kind of when you end up going to things that are just the polar opposite of that. I think that's a little counterintuitive, but when you think about it, really, it makes all the sense in the world. That's exactly what you would need to do and want. And I think that just works out really well here.
Yeah.
Obviously, these worlds are pretty out there and crazy, and the tone shifts a lot. But I think that it seems like it's going to read really well within the context of the story.
Appreciate that.
Fantastic.
Cool. Well, we're coming up on a half an hour here, so I want to play a quick commercial or two. We'll see, and then we'll kind of get into some of the things you guys are doing. We'll still ask some stuff about comics and the creative process, but we'll shift a little bit over to kind of how you're putting your campaigns together, what you're doing to get the word out, the marketing side of things. So we will come back in just a little bit.
Click that mouse and warp into All Ages of Geek's website, your ultimate portal to everything geek culture. Here you'll find articles that speak your language, from the latest anime buzz to the coolest tech trends. Our mission? To celebrate geekdom in all its glory. Whether you're a gamer, a comic enthusiast, a 90s kid, or an anime aficionado, we've got something for you. Dive deep into them with All Ages of Geek.
Your comics take a lot of time and effort to create. Way too much to have them get damaged while shipping to your backers. Gemini Comic Supply mailers keep your comics safe in transit, and with the code GeekCollective10, you can get those mailers with 10% off your order. That's GeekCollective10. Enter it at checkout to get 10% off. All right.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you, Ben, for playing those for us. Make sure you guys head on over to All Ages of Geek and check out all kinds of really cool stuff. They are collaborators of the show and our magazine that we do, Archetypes. They run really cool articles and they have all kinds of really stuff. They are starting up their podcast very soon. So if there's creators out there wanting to jump on a podcast, I got a couple here that might want to jump on. They're going to be opening up their podcast schedule here in, I believe they said for March or in March. I gotta go look back, but reach out to them and send them tell them Geek Collective sent you, and have some fun with that really cool crew over there. And then if you guys are also creators or anybody out there that wants or needs any kind of comic book supplies, head on over to GeminiComicSupply.com and use like I can't even say anymore. Geek Collective 10 at checkout. And Ben's like mad at me because I messed up that whole portion that he was gonna have to. Now he's gonna have
I'm
to
not
go.
mad at all.
He's gonna go edit. He's gonna have to edit it back.
No.
He's like,
No,
no.
we leave it on there. It's this is cinema verite. We just we put it out there.
That's
It's raw,
okay.
it's
Next time
unfiltered. It's the best.
I'll do better, fan. I'll do better, friend. But head on over to Gemini Comic Supply and use Geek Collective 10 at checkout and get yourself 10% off your entire order. I can't tell you how many times I have seen horror stories about comics coming to you. They spent all that time making them, just like Ben said in the commercial, but they come to you broken or bent or ripped or damaged somehow. So make sure you guys are taking care of these things to get to the backers the way you really, really want them to be seen, read, and heard, and all that good stuff. All right, Ben, we got a couple of questions about some marketing stuff. I want to go to listen. We got Refuge on the screen right now. Let's talk a little bit about this. This is, you said you wanted this to be a little bit more of an all ages line, and you guys got that, obviously some of this different stuff though. Do you guys have mostly all ages things, or do you guys have different age group kind of stuff? And if you do have different age group content, how do you guys balance that when you guys are marketing these things?
Yeah, we have we're so as quote unquote Bentbox Comics, that's how we operate. We have a ton of variety. If you go to look at our global comics, obviously you'll see a lot of it. We have a decent amount of books published, like a fairly large library at this point. Um, but we kind of tried to, once we got our feet on the ground and we published a couple books from other creators. We kind of had our own ideas in the works. We kind of wanted to find a way to really bring as much variety as possible. So we have horror, we have drama, we have Wingless, which is slightly more all ages, Blossom, Artificials like sci-fi, more like a teenage, like preteen and up. Orium's like a psychological horror, definitely more mature. Last One's more mature. So like we have, I don't want to sound cocky, but we got what you need. If you like something, if you got like a specific genre, we probably have a book in that genre. So yeah, honestly, when it comes to all ages, these are actually newer for us. Diving into this arena, so like this is the first all ages book I'll be writing, or I have written.
How receptive is your base?
So far so good. I mean, so here's one thing I'll say is I'm very proud of the sentence someone said once. One of our a purchaser of one of our books who said he's bought in everything so far, which is great, and he's awesome. He has a TikTok channel and everything like that. But he made a comment that said, if I see that Bentbox logo, I know it's going to be good. And I was like, hey, that's pretty much all I wanted.
And that's the dream, right?
That's all I want.
You create a brand that becomes synonymous with the thing you intended.
Quality. That's all we wanted was quality.
Oh,
And we
yeah.
wanted to bring like indie comics to people that they're just high quality. They're good stories. They're about escapism. They're basically for everyone and anyone. And I think so far we've done that. We have a fairly large library, like I said, so far. So it is kind of that right now is the brand is just being associated with quality, which is great. And so typically if someone sees, if someone's a reader of Artificial or Wingless and they see another book that has Bentbox Comics on the front, they tend to just, they support it, which is great. I mean, that's what that's all you can ask from like a fan base or a reader base is support. But that said, everyone has tastes and everyone has a book that they like or a genre that they prefer. So I'm sure hopefully we'll cross some lines with some of our readers with, all ages Refuge mixed with John's World's Forgotten. That'd be fantastic. But I'm sure, we'll have a reader base, a small chunk of the reader base that's really interested in an all ages adventure. But right now I'm more than happy to grow that reader base rather than depend on what we currently have. So that's kind of another reason why I'm diving into all ages, is to really find another set of readers, another set of, eyes for us.
Yeah, cool. So I had a question about, you've got, it looks like 533 people following you on Global Comics, which is awesome. Have you noticed, are you kind of using that to bring people onto your campaign? Because you've got a really good amount of followers here on Refuge as well.
So that was another reason why hey, Refuge, John's going to laugh at this. Refuge is a fluke, if you ask me, when it comes to the followers.
We're still trying to figure that out.
We have no idea what happened. And I'm just going to be honest. We have no reason to flex or fake it till you make it in this regard. It is 100%. It was at 24 followers or something like that. And then the next morning it was 140. And I'm like, cool. What happened? Wild. And John was like, I have no idea. And then next thing we know, we look, it was like 5 hours later, 150, like 160, 170.
Very cool.
Okay. But to be fair, that was, I think, like 8 days ago, it hit 170 and now it's just 170.
That's fantastic.
I mean, I'll take it, but it was definitely a random thing, especially because I wasn't really pushing it super hard yet. That said, to go back to your question, yes, Global Comics We decided early on to kind of put a lot of energy and effort and investment into Global Comics. So um, we are trying to utilize that as best as we can as almost like a kind of like supplementary, what would you call it, like email list, because that's
Mhm.
what it can serve as. Because when you post an update or a new release, which you can do with Refuge, and that's what I plan to do, about a week before it goes live on Kickstarter, I'm just going to post the preview. It's going to be, ticked off as a release from Bentbox Comics. All 500 and some of our followers will get notified that we have a new release. It'll be linked to the campaign, and now that it's almost like another set of email lists that I'm using. So I would love to say that I have the stats off the top of my head of the ROI on that. I don't. I do think we tested that with like True Believer, which is one of our recently released books, which you guys had Jeff Morris on not that long ago.
Mhm.
He published it through Bentbox. Really appreciate him trusting us with his book. But like that was almost a guinea pig of that. We made sure to really push it with that, and I think we, maybe 10 to 15 new backers because of it. Nothing major, not like a make or break campaign situation, but definitely, it's showing, yeah, a benefit for sure. But I think it might just be a numbers game. That's what I'm hoping. The more followers, hopefully the next campaign will be bigger and bigger and bigger. We'll just snowball it.
It's sometimes it happens that way, right? You keep going, and it's like you said. I mean, it gets to a point where people continue to see you do things that are consistent and on a consistent basis, like you said, quality, right?
Mhm.
You have people that are going, and as soon as they see your brand somewhere, they're gonna grab it, no matter what it is, because they know that you guys have an eye for quality, and they know that you're not gonna do anything less.
Yeah,
That's and then it just continues to go, and you continue to be doing it that way, right?
yeah,
It's just gonna be it becomes this thing of like, it just like a fountain just opens up sometimes when it gets to that point, like you said, overnight it just happens, and it's a fantastic feeling. But you're absolutely correct. It takes you so long to get there
right.
and get and find a way to do it. So with these different ways that you guys are finding how to market to a new audience, like by using global comics and things of that nature, how do you guys find that doing something like that in a new landscape with this like digital realm, how are you guys intriguing some readers to jump on digitally?
It's a good question.
Well, I mean, I think that the world we live in, right? We all know it's digital. People are on their phones 24/7, right? Comics were taken out of your local gas stations and all these little places where kids could get them with their parents and whatnot. I mean, they were all isolated to comic book shops, and it's just I feel like we've kind of skipped a couple generations of readers because
Yeah.
they got so isolated, and I know that so far our response on Global Comics has been amazing, and Chris and I were kind of just joking, but we're like, well, why wouldn't it work out? We're putting comics where people go to read comics, right?
Hmm.
If they're going to be on their phone and they love comics, and that's the beautiful thing about this is we have 533 followers, right? But those 533 followers were on that app specifically to read comics and followed us because they liked our comics.
Yeah,
And so, we kind of use Global Comics, like Chris said, as a marketing tool. But we've also, I should say Chris has had personal conversations with the owner of Global Comics on how to better certain things, and honestly got us really into the position we're in because he's like, hey, we're a small indie publisher, and one of the really cool things about us is we started this publishing company with our own books. I mean, between the two of us, I think we have 7 books published,
yeah,
and we're like, hey, they're all quality. Let's start this, and let's fund. We are literally funding this publishing company with our own books, and then people saw that. resonated with it, and started to say, hey, what has Bentbox about coming to us? But again, like you, back to your question, I think that Global Comics is our marketing tool right now. So
Yep.
yep.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think it's good to see. It's kind of weird. I was surprised when I started getting into Kickstarter with my books, how many people were really not interested in digital at all. I mean, you get people that
Yeah.
want to support the campaign, and sometimes digital would be the way to do that because it's the lowest cost tier. But I kind of found that people, even if I in this last campaign, I would send out the digital early if you asked me to, and
Yep.
a lot of people would be like, no, I just want to read the printed version. Like that's what people want. And I think you're right though in noticing. I think even Dan DiDio said when he was at DC, we've missed like a generation of comic readers because they were on their phones at a time when we kind of dropped the ball.
Yeah.
And I think that global comics is kind of becoming what maybe comicology could have been or would have been, a little bit of what webtoons is, but for the kind of comics we like. And I think DC showing up there is going to be a huge part of that. That's going to be awesome. But yeah,
Oh
digitals.
yeah.
I mean, that's kind of always what I had foremost in my mind. I'm surprised to see how many holdovers there are still for traditional, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I like that.
Nothing will change the feel of a book in your hand,
Oh yeah.
right? Like
Mhm.
nothing will ever change that. It's just like you said, I think it's more of a there's a whole reader base out there that isn't
Yeah.
even aware of that, right? It doesn't even
Mhm.
know, right? So I think that you're really just taking half the reader base and the other half, and you're saying, hey, I love printed comics and there's nothing like it, and we're still gonna give you that. But
Yeah.
if you're not somebody who reads on through paper, there's a digital platform for you, man. We
Yeah.
have that
It's
available.
yeah. I meet someone almost every day that has no idea that people still make comic books.
Oh yeah. Same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
it's true. It's true.
So if and this is the thing where we're yeah, and I don't want to get into a crazy conversation, but where everyone's like, oh, comics are gonna die, and no, comics are just gonna change, right? But
Yeah.
Mhm.
because
We're just gonna
there's
adapt.
there is and there always has been another group of people who still don't know that comic books exist, right?
Right.
And continue to exist. So, I mean, there's always right, but then there's always going to be the other side of it where there are people that know it exists, and
Mhm.
they're the ones that keep it going, right? And exactly what you're doing, we're just changing the landscapes. We adapt, and things move and change, right? And I've got a big, huge question. Like, yeah, I love the fact that we're incorporating something like global comics and Kickstarter, these kind of self-publishing platforms. How do you guys see digitals or the next step, next phase of digital? Where do you guys kind of see something coming together, like maybe like motion graphics? You send out some files, and and each panel comes to life, or each page comes to life, or just certain things come to life,
I mean, that'd be awesome. That sounds
right?
cool. I like that idea. Okay,
We're
let's
gonna
do
do
it.
that one of these days.
Let's do it. All right, we just decided, everybody. That's the future.
I want to
It
do a
starts
jump
today.
scare in because you can get some animation in your PDFs.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know when I'm going to do it. I know I do have an idea of when I'm going to do it in my next story. I don't know
I've
like the
seen
exact panel.
recently that somebody used a whole entire PDF to play Doom.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Of course.
Oh
if they can
wow,
play
that's cool.
Doom on
What the heck?
in a PDF, we can figure out how to make a comic book come to life in a PDF.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole Doom from back in the day is probably the size of like a blurry JPEG now.
Yeah.
But that said, I think I think there
But
is
they
something where
did
you
it in
can
a
get.
PDF.
There's
I'm
a
all
way.
for it.
When
I no, I
yeah.
believe it. I've seen some pretty wild stuff because we'll get presentations usually in PowerPoint, and people will just they have like, hey, I have this animated presentation from 10 years ago. Can we put this in the PowerPoint? And it's like, uh, it used to always be like no, but
Yeah.
I have to be careful nowadays because they've made it so good in a
Yeah.
lot of these in PDFs and then in the support things they support and then PowerPoint as well, I guess, that I
Yeah.
have to at least check before I say no, that's stupid. Why did you ask me that? Because there's a decent chance it
Oh,
works out and it can be done.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to your question earlier, though, and I'll tie it back into like the future of it, is that, like you said, you meet someone every day who doesn't know about comics, and I I was recently pleasantly surprised, and I hope this is an encouragement to listeners and other creators like us. But John and I are doing a lecture this coming Friday at a local high
I love
school.
that.
I know the art director at the high school, and she found out we make comics, and so she immediately asked us to come do a
Very
lecture.
cool.
And I was like, okay, yeah, definitely. But I mean, I made the obvious question of like, like, why? Oh, almost like, are they interested in comics? And she goes, they love comics. All my students love comics. And I'm like,
Wow.
really? And she's like, yeah, they're all teenagers. They all like making little comic strips. They talk about comics. They're
That's
very into it.
amazing.
Obviously, more like
Manga.
manga and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Mhm.
But that's not to negate the fact that they still are interested in this type of media. And
Yeah.
and it was just really it was encouraging. So like I was really cool about it. Now I had already given a lecture about a
Mhm.
year and a half ago to another class,
Mhm.
and it was the same experience, and it was just really cool seeing standing in front of a whole classroom of teenagers just
Yeah.
with their eyes locked on you, very engaged, very
Yeah.
invested in learning about comics. And I was just
Yeah.
it was awesome to see, very encouraging. And then we get this
Very
opportunity to do it this Friday, and I'm like, okay, cool. This just, the generation's there, and I'm not super worried about
Yeah.
comics, to be completely honest.
And I love that. And so I got another question, and this ties into what you just talked about. Is you're going to go to you said high school to
Yeah.
do this lecture? You're going to go to a high school to do this lecture. They're into a lot of manga stuff. I see that some of your stuff, it almost feels a little bit manga inspired. Some of the
Close.
artwork, right,
Yeah.
like. But it's still mixed with. It still gives me some of like I'm looking at Worlds Forgotten. We got a little bit of that in the Worlds Forgotten.
Heathen is probably the closest to manga we get. And
Okay.
honestly, we pitch it as a westernized manga. So
And
like,
that's what everybody's playing with it, right? To kind
yeah,
of get the eyes of the younger generation to be like, hey guys, we know you love manga, but American comics can be cool too,
yeah,
right? So come check this out too, and you guys can create this amazing stuff too.
yeah.
So and creating and teaching people, right? This is it's what we love to do at Geek Collective, right? We help. That's why we do this stuff, and that's why we go live and talk about other people's things right before we even talk about ours, is because we want people to find the stories, find your story, right?
Hmm.
And that can be anything. We all art is subjective. People love story is subjective, but everybody loves something that's out there, and there's something out there for everybody. And uh, doing these things that like Ben and I do, where we help creators kind of create these things and then build their campaigns and help them understand what it takes to make a Kickstarter, right? Because that's very difficult too, and that's a whole headache on its own, right?
Hmm.
Because you got to from when you make the thing, that's nuts, right?
Yeah, for real.
That's nuts. But then Kickstarter, you're like, holy crap! Now I gotta fund this thing or get this into somebody, find a way to get it to out there to the world, and it could be a little daunting. So with all these Kickstarters you guys do, with all these books you guys have done, how are you guys finding that you're still intriguing your base with these stories and these Kickstarters?
I'll
That's a
let
good
you
question.
answer that, Chris.
Oh
Yeah,
man,
why not?
I stump you guys.
Hold on, off the top. Yeah, let me just wing it. So, well, I mean, to be honest, we are growing steadily, but we're not growing nearly as fast as I would like. Obviously, I'm sure a lot of people are in a similar boat, especially when they're trying to put out as much content as possible, especially when it's quality, when they really invest their time, energy, and effort into it, like John and myself have with our books. Like some of the creators that we currently work with, John Orozco with Orium, he's working on issue 2. We, Jeff Morris obviously publishing with us. We actually have another creator who just signed on, and hopefully his book will be ready by the end of the year. Very excited about his book. So we have all these creators that are kind of helping almost join us and build this brand. And as we build the brand, we're connecting the brand with quality, which I think is in turn helping us build an audience because they see the brand, they know quality, so they invest.
Yeah.
That said, there is this weird situation we're in right now, and we're all in, I think. Where how do you find readers? Like, where are the readers? Like, how do you really tap into that audience, and not necessarily, I mean, like targeted, like actually find who you want to find. Now, obviously, there are ways to do it, but it's changed. Similar to comics, similar to like all the other type of media that we've discussed already, that things have kind of evolved, and we've had to learn how to adapt. Back in the day, Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff used to have organic growth, and you could actually find people just by posting. And now it's like, oh, I have to pay a couple $100, and maybe I'll find a couple people, and so we are currently, honestly, we're currently like kind of workshopping how to find readers, how to build that reader base. We have a really top-notch website being created right now that should go live very soon.
Very cool.
SEO, all the fun stuff, all the good stuff set up to hopefully drive traffic there. We have plans for boots on the ground type marketing with cons, and
Yes.
that's how we have been growing our reader base so far. So I will definitely say that I think the majority of our fandom is, we're based in Florida. It's pretty localized.
Right, with all this craziness that's going on in the comic book industry right now, like the diamond
The
shakeup,
diamond,
right?
yep,
Diamond and all that stuff. And recently, I was talking to my wife and we were discussing things, and I was like, you know what, when people are when something is taken away that you rely on, right? People become innovative, right?
oh yeah,
And they become adaptive, and they figure out ways that they can create something with less because they didn't have it before, right?
yeah,
Or then less than what they had before. So, and I think that's where we are now, right? Us as creators, we've had this thing been taken from us that we were like, okay, cool, maybe we can get into the direct market because
hmm
they will be able, they'll take a, if a publisher takes a chance on us, maybe they'll take a chance on this book too, right? So it's like, but now you have to figure out different ways, right? So many different ways that we can do this is by being innovative and creating something brand new, right? A little
yeah,
bit of what me and Ben have been working on. We've been working on some really stuff. Everybody's been seeing kind of the writing on the wall, and I've been
yeah,
noted like love hearing so many different creators have so many different ideas. Like there's so many different things that are jumping out there right now that you can get part of, that creators are doing to kind of supplement the problems that arose from the diamond chapter
mm,
11 bankruptcy.
yeah,
So it's like very cool to kind of see, right? So one of the things that Ben and are doing right now to kind of create some kind of bring in kind of this different crowd and create some continuity between campaigns is we're kind of testing the market with a trading card campaign, right?
hmm
Where people can collect cards. We're gonna do three common cards, four cards, right? You're gonna get three commons, you're gonna get one specialty, and then you have a 1 in 5 chance to get a glow in the dark metal card. And so what we're gonna do with this, right? That's what we're doing with this. We have our magazine that we usually do, Archetypes magazine,
yep,
which is also an anthology style magazine where we ask people to send us their short stories and then we publish it in that book. Again, helping the community put things where, like, if you had pitched a book and it didn't get picked up, but what do you do with it? You spent all that money on, right, getting it made and paying all these creators to do it, and now where does it go? It goes to waste. No, let's put it in Archetypes. So that's what we do with that, right? So we took Archetypes characters from some of our creators stories that we published in there, and we put him into this card thing. And then we're also going to kick off a second phase where we collaborate with different creators to
hmm
create cards for their own, but it's going to be the one kind of style, kind of like the old school Marvel DC cards where they have the attributes on the back. Maybe they had a little bit of backstory, and then they had like a little did you know part, hey, did you know this about this character, kind of a thing. And we're calling that the creator series,
hmm,
right? And what we're going to do with that is, so we're going to offer that to people in their campaigns. You can grab that either from their campaign or from us, or how we work that out, and then you can grab those from multiple campaigns, right? and it creates this kind of continuity between everything. And if you want, you can click on that area there, Ben, where it shows the creator series on the side there, the scroll,
Oh, there we go.
right there. So, and we have some so this is what we're going to be doing. We're partnering with CJ Hudson.
Yep.
He's going to be coming up with a book here very soon called Hunters of the Outer Realm. We're also partnering with Jonathan Hedrick to do this as well. So you guys can grab, this time they're going to be from us, because you guys could get these for free, because they're going to be a crossover campaign. Jonathan Hedrick's campaign is going on now. It's called Capable. You can go over there, back his campaign, back our campaign. You get your first card free, so that you can start your collection now. And then very soon we're going to come back with a really cool Kickstarter campaign with this phase 2, where we're going to have some of Jonathan Hedrick's characters, and we're going to have some of CJ's characters that are going to be combined in this really cool creator collector series, where you get to grab that and collect them all. And we're also going to have rares and specials and all that's really fun stuff. We're also going to collaborate with other people to do other things. There's a phase 3, but that one's a little bit different. We'll talk to creators on the back end with that one, because that one we're actually also going to be offering to purchase IP for a period of time to create an actual card line that then, like, here we go, you were talking about putting boots on the ground, right? Where we're also going to create a card line, go into partnership with another business or another IP to create a franchise with these cards, right? And their thing, bring their books over to send them out to us on consignment, or however we work it out, and sell their books along with the cards, right? And then create this really cool continuity between all these campaigns. So that's what we're kind of doing with this thing. It's all about, kind of raising the all the ships rise thing that I messed up.
Exactly.
So, but this is what we're trying to do with this stuff, right? We're trying
Yeah.
to innovate this new thing, right? So
For
the
sure.
idea is to create this kind of really cool continuity between multiple different campaigns, and where backers, these are all comics you guys are already backing anyway, right? So you guys want some really badass cards to go with them, and you guys can collect them from all these different people. You guys can it's just a really cool thing. And then we'll also curate some tiers and stuff like that with that other campaign. But this one right here, we're doing, this one's going to be our own brand line. And we did this because we wanted to kind of show people that we could do something, pertaining to your brand, and create something amazing like this for you, right? And so this is kind of like a little model that we created for ourselves. We're going to create this line for our archetypes line, and this is something that we can do for you guys in that phase 3, right? And the phase 2, that one's, we always kind of work with you guys to do that, because we want people to go to your campaigns and get these cards, right, from you guys, because it's about going to you guys to get them, and then however you guys offer them. So that's what we're going to do with those. So we really love this really cool idea. When we kind of pitched it to a bunch of friends, they were like, heck yeah, I'm on board, let's do it. So we went with it, and we really love
Sweet.
what we're going to do with this. The next phases are going to be really, really cool. But that's not the only thing we're going to be doing, guys. There's going to be tons and tons of stuff, like what Ben has got to be coming up here very soon. Ben, please tell everybody what you got coming up.
All right, let's go into actually, before I do that, let me throw up a comment we have from BMD Nerd for you guys. Monsters Volume 1 was a good read. Will there be a sequel?
Yes, there will. I appreciate the comment, but I mean, yeah, I'll give you a quick little. I'll try and make it quick. Volume 1 implies multiple volumes, so the plan currently is to have basically one almost like a yearly release on Halloween for at least maybe, I mean, honestly, the foreseeable future, but maybe the next 4 years. And then my goal is to put together a collectible version at the very end, because if you guys aren't familiar with it, our listeners, or even Ben and Joey, it's a kind of an interesting take on a horror book, but it's all single page horror stories, and there's no dialogue in that either, so it's just very creepy and unsettling art by a Brazilian artist. Who would have guessed? And but the cool thing, the ultimate plan is to honestly turn it into a really cool, thick, like coffee table art book that you would put out on Halloween.
Very cool.
So that's our ultimate goal with it, is to have like a really nice hardcover collectible edition in maybe 4 to 5 years once we come out with like, volume 4 or 5.
Mhm.
But yes, there will be a sequel.
Very cool.
Sounds
Love
good.
that.
I mean,
Love it.
absolutely. So to get back into our other stuff, I guess we should start the comic roundup.
Okay.
You know how I love playing my little cartoons in the middle there.
Yeah.
That looks good.
So my book that Joey alluded to earlier is We Are Scarlet Twilight: Cobalt Crisis. It is the sequel to Scarlet Twilight, to We Are Scarlet Twilight, and I'm really excited to get it going. It's going to be basically something like Crisis on Infinite Earths or Secret Wars, but if it had taken place in the 1940s during the golden age of comics. So you're going to get all those big epic events, all those surprises, all those characters coming in from other universes, some of which you'll recognize, that you get in Crisis or Secret Wars, but you're going to get the atmosphere of like the old JSA comics, the Batman the Animated Series, the Fleischer Brothers Superman cartoons, the Shadow, the pulps, all that stuff. So I think it's a really good mix of some stuff that we all like, but I don't think we've necessarily seen combined before. And that, honestly, putting those two things together is what made me decide to do another Scarlet Twilight. I really liked how the first one ended and was kind of happy with it. I feel like it had a good resolution, but I needed a really good idea to go back to this world and these characters, and I think I got one. So we're in pre-launch now. We're probably going to launch in late February or early March. I'm hoping late February. I want to get the whole first issue done so that when you back the campaign, you can message me that day and get the digital copy that day to read. So I want to make sure that, like when you go to the comic book shop on Wednesday, you can read your book the same day. I want to give you the same experience. It'll be digital. Obviously, we can't ship them out that fast, but I want to have some instant gratification to just make this like as much fun as getting your comics on Wednesday. So I think it's going to be a really great book. I'm really excited. I just got done with the first cover. So that's just really cool to see that coming together, and just getting excited to launch. So head over to this pre-launch page.
I hate how good you are, because that means that they're going to take
good.
you away from me.
It looks good.
Yeah, let's see, man. We'll see. I like doing this stuff, a whole lot. I don't know what kind of offer I need to be so good I can't refuse. But
well, Ben, just let me know what the offer is, and maybe we'll make one. Because it is. I mean, we had a quick little back and forth about the design of the character and the old Phantom like look, and it. Yeah. I do love the look. The design's great.
So cool. It's so cool.
Yeah, thanks. It was a complete accident in a lot of ways. If you, I'm not going to bring it on screen because it would take me a while to find. But when I was first trying to come up with how this character should look, I kind of just went through.
You showed me. I think, yeah.
They were all bad. It was like the big collar. I mean, I wanted to pick up those elements.
Good, dude. Come on.
Some of them were okay, but the. I was trying to. If you look at those old comics, you had guys with these big collars. I'm like, maybe something like that. Because I wanted to bring in stuff from the era, and it just wasn't working out. But I had some Frank Lloyd Wright designs that I wanted to work in as details in the costume of some part. I had 2 layers that were transparent. They overlapped, and they basically formed the symbol that you see here on his chest. Awesome. And I just basically, once I saw that, the rest of it fell into place, and it was a pretty good costume.
Yeah, that's so cool.
So yeah, lucky,
I love that how all that
inspiration struck.
So
yep.
Yeah, so a few other comics we should talk about. We mentioned this earlier, but Jonathan Hendrick has Capable running for 3 more days. Very cool comic, a great series, and definitely head over and check that out.
Yeah, this one follows a young man. So basically, everybody who is disabled suddenly becomes super capable, right? So they get superpowers, and this young man he was in a wheelchair, and then he gets super speed, and then he has to deal with everybody around him kind of getting some of the people who were like who were handicapable or and things of that nature, handicapped, become handicapable. So very, very cool stuff. Love this story. When I met Jonathan years ago, we talked about this one. I think it was like issue 1. Now this is issue 7, and I loved it then, and I still love it now. Fantastic. I might be a little biased because he hired me to work on this book. I'm gonna help him develop. Right, I'm gonna help him do the design and layout for the collected edition when that comes out. But this one is one through, you can grab 1 through 7, and then that collected edition, we're gonna be working on that to make that badass for you guys because this story is freaking badass.
Very cool.
Sweet.
Another one we want to talk about is Wizards of the Outer Realm from C.J. Hudson, who's a friend of ours and friend of the show. This is a great looking book. It's rogue planet raiders run afoul of an alien life form unlike anything they've encountered, upending the very time and space around them. And I guess I got to say, this is just one of the best looking books coming out in Kickstarter right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's
really
so
great
cool.
stuff.
It's
Yeah,
so
the art style. We talked about this a little last week, but damn, this is great.
Yeah, and the artist was actually we talked about. I was like, dude, when I looked at this, it reminds me of like '90s like video games.
Oh
And
yeah.
what's funny is that the artist uh I forget his name, is it Fogel, uh and he's actually a game designer, so he's doing game designs right now. They keep taking him from comics and saying, hey, we need you over here at the game stuff. So CJ got him at the right time to get him to do this book, and holy smokes, this thing came out really good.
And you're developing some cards for this as well, right?
Yes, we are developing some cards for this. We're gonna be like I said, we're gonna be collaborating with CJ on this actual campaign to create the creator series cards. And if you guys back their campaign and our card campaign, you're gonna get that one for free to start off your collection. This is your collection that we're gonna be doing, where you can see these other cards around, starting with CJ's book and Capable, which is Jonathan Hedrick's book. We also are talking to Adam Barnhart because he's got his knock coming up very soon.
Mm-hmm.
So you might see a card in that one as well that you guys are going to definitely want to collect. Um, I might be in talks with Mr. Kevin Joseph about something with cards. We're so there's lots of really cool stuff that we're doing with lots of really cool people. You're definitely going to want to keep an eye out for these cards. You're going to find them popping up everywhere, I promise you. Show them.
Sounds
You,
good.
you can show them. Go back to our.
Do
We have
I?
some. Yeah, we have
Is
them
the
on
card on the page here?
It's on our campaign. It's on the.
Oh, okay. I did
You
not
just go
realize
down
this.
and it's right underneath the creator series and all that stuff at the bottom of the page. We talk all about it there. You guys, if you guys are interested, if anybody's interested who is a creator on Kickstarter and you're interested in this kind of idea, this is the
Oh,
design.
cool.
They're going to be content. They're going to be not continuity, but uh that's the same design around. We're creating continuity with these designs. This is what we're going to do call as the creator series, your crowdfunding edition. And then we'll, if you guys want to move forward, anybody out there wants to move forward with it on phase 2, we always talk about that. Phase 3 is a little bit more limited. So please talk to us a little bit about these, because this is a really fun thing that we're going to be doing. Yep.
All right, cool. So that's about all I got. Is there anything else I'm missing, Joey?
Band of Bards has a pin
Oh,
going
that's
on right
right.
now. It's so their motto is comics doing good. And with all this crazy stuff, like, I don't know if I don't want to get political, but everybody's talking about DEI right now. DEI this, DEI that, whatever, right? But it's not a bad word. It's right. So Band of Bards, their motto is and always has been from inception. It always has been about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And they want to implement that by using this phrase, comics doing good. And they want everybody to know that comics does there's always, listen, if somebody out there has a story about comics doing good in your life, whether it was a story that you couldn't put down in the worst time of your life that inspired, or something that inspired you to make a comic book, there's something out there, some way, one way or another, comics touched your life, right? And that's how comics doing good. Even if it was a friend who was a comic book creator and they touched your life, comics is doing good in those different things that I mentioned, right? So, and this is one way, one tangible way that you can show your love for comic books and people and everybody doing good for one another. What's cool about this campaign is that this is the first annual campaign. They're going to be also offering people to design the next ones, right? So every year there's going to be a brand new artist who designs the actual pin, and then this is not going to be part of the campaign because you can't do anything like this part of the campaign, but running alongside the campaign with their own thing, which is going to be kind of there's a lot of stuff that's going on with it. So nothing has been set in stone because there's lots of stuff that has to go research and all da. But they want to do a really cool grant opportunity for creators. Another way comics can do good, right, is to help people find funding for this stuff, right? Because it's really difficult sometimes to find funding for your creation. And Bandit Bars definitely knows how that is because this is their fourth going on fifth year being in business, and it's definitely, I think it's fourth or fifth year. I don't quote me on that. I'm probably wrong. It's late, guys. No, so anyway, but they want everybody to know that comics can do good, and this is one way that you can show it by sporting that really cool pin.
Sweet.
I don't know. I got me two, guys. I got two of them. I'm gonna have one, and then I'm gonna keep one in my bag somewhere for somebody who I'm gonna give one away. So that's what I'm doing with mine. So
Sweet.
cool.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't got anything else.
Could I add one
All
thing
right.
if we have 2 minutes?
Please.
We have all the minutes. Yeah, go for
Oh,
it.
well, then I'm gonna take advantage of that. I'm just kidding. It kept me at 2. So I just wanted to jump on the tails of that. That's great. And John and I kind of saw a similar issue with the comic book space in general, and just, well, I mean, honestly, just the world in general. It's just negativity tends to be it's what everyone gravitates towards, and there's so much infighting and everything like that. And we really wanted to try and figure out a way to stand apart as a publisher. So I did see this pin and I was like, this is awesome, because this is kind of, I was hoping we would start seeing this more often. And we're like, could positivity win over negativity? Because drama seems to be such a driving force. And we're like,
Yeah.
I personally don't care. And I'm like, could we use positivity in a way that would actually not just support comics in general, but could also help grow a business, and not just build a reader base off the fact that you're throwing mud at someone else. You know what I mean? That's not what we should be doing. So John and I had this brainstorming session. We came up with something. Let me know if I can share my screen just for a second.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if it. Yeah,
No, you're past your 2 minutes. You're not allowed.
No, I have 4 seconds left. I counted.
I've got 4 seconds.
It's gonna be really quick. So this is a quick sneak peek at our website that we currently have in the works.
I love that.
And so no one else has really seen this yet. So this is definitely
No, this is a first reveal.
This is first reveal.
We got almost 40 people seeing it now.
Oh, there you go. So on the heels of comics doing good, we had a similar idea, and we really wanted to put this forth as we were developing our quote unquote company, our publishing house. So we developed an initiative on our website called Comics for a Cause, and this is basically going to be an initiative where a good portion of our books, of profits from some of our books, specifically a specific set of our books, will be going towards actual charity. So, for example, one of our flagship titles for this cause was Blossom, which was written by John. This is 10 cents of every copy sold goes towards the Smile Train Foundation, which is an incredible foundation that helps children with cleft lip and palate all across the world. Which is obvious. It's something that is close to John's heart and some of his circumstances and the cause for writing the book. Similarly, John's doing all the heavy lifting with this, so I need to really figure out my stuff. But similarly, he also has Wingless, and I want to give a special shout out real quick to What the Book on TikTok. She actually connected us to this charity called Tiny Superheroes, which gives capes to disabled children, and it's a really cool charity. And there's a part in Wingless where Astro gets a cape, and it just kind of worked so perfectly, and we weren't originally planning this.
So cool.
So 10 cents of every copy of Wingless sold will go towards Tiny Superheroes. And that's just the beginning. Refuge, another reason why I'm doing Refuge is I really want to tie that to a refugee charity that will help children, and displaced children from war-torn countries. And that's another reason why it doesn't have any speech bubbles, is it completely knocks down that barrier to entry. You could gift the Book of Refuge to anyone, anywhere. And it's a universal message. And then also 10 cents from every copy of those will also go towards a specific refugee charity. So yeah, along those lines of
should have led with that.
I know we should have. What do you guys think of the logo? Give me this, because you're the
I
first
love
one
the
seeing
logo.
it.
It's fantastic.
I love it.
It's a
This
really
is
good logo.
fantastic. I'm sold.
Sweet.
Where do I throw my money at you?
Well, just us, any one of our campaigns. So yeah, that's, and obviously once the website goes live, it doesn't really matter. There would be specific books that'll be basically tagged to that initiative, and we'll make sure there's like a little icon there that you'll know for sure that you're backing a book that's going to be supporting charity. So that, along the lines of comics doing good, I think I'm hopeful that that's maybe another
that is a fantastic way.
Inspirational thing for us as creators to realize that maybe positivity might have, we might be seeing a little bit of it.
Yeah, I love that. Very, very cool. Yeah, definitely, guys, check this out, especially because that is comics doing good, and I absolutely love what you guys are doing. I might get you guys in touch with Band of Bards, and we might have to sit down and have a podcast interview with you guys. And
100%. I'm always down.
Yeah. All right, man. All right, Ben. I have nothing else. We're running overtime. My wife's knocking on the door, and she's ready. All right, man. Let's get on out of here.
All right. So yeah, let's wrap it up, guys. You can check out the books that we talked about tonight in the description. You can check out Refuge. You can check out Words Forgotten, and I hope you will. Guys, I want to thank you again for being on the show, and for everyone else, I hope you've had fun talking to these guys about their comics. I certainly have, and we will see you next week.